So Rob, I know you have a rule of thumb about Kickstarters. What is it?
Never back hardware Kickstarters ever.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I backed one and it was a little over a year ago, and I'm regretting it now. It was the Hyperjuice something or other. It's a GAN charger that has, I think it's 3 USB-C and 1 USB-A, and it plugs into the wall, and then it's stackable, which means you can plug. It's like you can plug these one on top of another. They have a wall charger port on the actual charger itself, so you could conceivably create an enormous tower of these and plug in more and more and more USB-C cables, right?
Please don't do that.
And I saw, and I did not do that. I did back this. I did get it. I've been using it since like September 2021, something like that. And I always looked at that and thought, it's really small, which I like. And I had it plugged under a bookcase, and then I would snake the wires up, and I had a little clampy thing on the side of my desk where I could just kind of put the cables and then pull them out as I needed them. So it was all, the cables were all kind of hidden. And then I would pull the slack out of them and pull them onto my desk where I needed them as needed to charge things. And I always looked at that extra plug in the GAN charger that would allow you to stack them and thought, that doesn't look smart. That doesn't look advisable, right? And they would show in some of their marketing materials, people stacking like 6 and 7 of them. And I thought, well, surely at some point you're either getting very little juice out of the last one plugged in, or you're terribly overloading the circuit in your house, and that none of this can be good, right? And so I never did that. It turns out that I did go and look. I wanted to buy a second one. I kind of decided, I think in the spring or summer, I decided I need another one of these. So I was looking around for them, and they were all sold out. They were unavailable on the website. I thought, that's really weird. And so I looked around, I did some Googling, and I happened upon a June article on The Verge that said, are these Hyperjuice plugs causing fires? I was like, oh no. So I looked, and there had been all these, it was basically a Verge article picking up on some like Reddit threads and other things about people who had problems with them overheating and the plastic starting to melt and stuff like that. And then, talking about it, and I was like, oh, great. And then I guess Hyper pulled them, but they didn't say anything about them ever. Well, it turns out they just got recalled like a week ago. It was a voluntary recall. And I will say this about Hyper. Shame on them for only offering store credit. I think that's pretty bad. I mean,
that would be illegal in the UK. They wouldn't even get away with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and maybe they're not if you happen to live in the UK and bought one of these. But I think they were sold primarily. I saw some statistics somewhere that there were only about 18,000 of them sold. Most of them were sold in the US, some in like Canada and Mexico. But I don't remember seeing any figures about sales to the UK or Europe or anywhere else.
I distinctly remember looking at the Kickstarter, and the shipping to the UK was like nearly as much as the charger.
Yeah, that would.
So I imagine that they probably didn't have that many UK backers.
Right, and I mean, that's the other thing about this thing. It was if you did the kind of the early backing like I did, it was really cheap. It was only $59, which for a GAN charger that has that many outputs, and I think it's a 65-watt charger, that's really good. But a little too good, it turns out. So now I'm waiting my 4 to 6 weeks for a mailer so I can mail it back to them and get credit for my $59, which I don't really want to spend with them anyway, but that's how that goes. But as a result of this, I was in the market for a new charger. And the problem I have with charging stuff is that it just becomes such a mess so quickly with stacks of devices and cables running everywhere.
Yeah.
And so what I got was, let me look at this for a second. It's a Ugreen GAN charger. And I'm going to open up Amazon and make sure that I get the right model here if anybody's interested in checking it out. It's the
Yeah, if you can send that to me as well after the show, and I'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Because it's the Ugreen Nexode 200-watt USB-C desk charger, 6-port GAN PD fast charger with 3-foot USB cable. It just goes on and on and on. But
sure, yeah.
But what it's got is it's got a 3-foot cable to the wall. It's this thing is chunky. It's not chunky in the sense that it's big. It's chunky in the sense it's hefty, I guess is what I should say. It's pretty heavy. Not something you want to use as a portable charger that you take in a bag or something. But it's kind of nice. It's got little grippy feet. Sits on the corner of my desk, kind of out of the way. And it has 4 USB-C and 2 USB-A ports on it. Now, it's 200 watts. It can deliver quite a bit of power as a result. So I'm going to go... There's a very complicated chart that explains...
200 watts, that's a big lad.
It is, and that's not what it delivers to one port. It delivers... What it can do, though, is it can split that and deliver 100 watts to each of the first 2 USB-C ports. And that's where this gets complicated, because if you only plug one thing in, it depends what your configuration of plugging things in to it is. It really dictates how much power you're going to get out. So like if you put something in every single port, which, of course I was going to do, you're only going to get 65 watts for the first port, 45 for the second and third, 20 for the fourth. That takes care of the USB-C ones. And then looks like 5 volts for each of the USB-As. Now, if you only plug in one, you get 100 watts in either of the first 2, and so on. So there's all these different, as you can imagine, with 6 different ports, it has a whole bunch of different configurations that you can do. But basically, the rule of thumb is the fewer things you plug in, the more power you get, and the ones furthest to the left are the most powerful ones. So it all depends on how fast you want to charge things. But that's still... in a 2-cable situation, I can still get 200-watt USB-C cables charging. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's legitimately impressive. Like that's because even the 16-inch MacBooks are like 92 watt, 93 or something like that.
Right. And it's the USB-C that I use the most. So those are the ones that where I need the most power most of the time too, because it's things like charging a laptop or charging an iPad or something like that. And even with the first 3 plugged in, you still get 65, 65, and 65. You get 65 across all 3 of those. So it's pretty impressive that way. It's just once you start also adding in the USB-As and stuff that you start losing some of the power on the other ones. But I've been pretty happy with it. I've only had it for a few days, but I also bought some short 1.5-foot USB-C cables so that I can just kind of, so that I'm not cluttering up my desk. If this is in the corner, I have a short cable. I can just kind of stack things up on top of each other on the opposite corner and plug them all in.
Yeah. These charger things have come a long way. I mean, I'm still using one of the original like Anker ones that has I think it has 4 USB-A and then 1 USB-C on it, which I just use when we're traveling and stuff like that, which is perfect for the 2 of us because it's pretty much we just plug in 2 Apple Watch chargers and 2 phone chargers. And that's still going strong, and that will also charge my MacBook very slowly, but it will work. So I still stick with that for now, but I think when this blows up, I will start looking at one of these. Was it GAN? Is that what we call it?
It is. It's GAN, which is like gallium nitrate or something like that. And it just means the components inside it are smaller, so it's not a giant thing on your desk, which helps. But it's kind of GAN tends to be kind of pricey. This thing's $200, so not cheap at all. But it's basically my charging station for all of my stuff, and I can do a lot at once, and that way I don't have to be constantly shuffling things in and out.
Yeah. No, it sounds really good. What I had to laugh. I think we mentioned at the end of last week's episode that maybe you were getting or you had your Steam Deck. I'm definitely going to say Stream Deck by accident.
Oh, I know. I do it all the time.
And I was kind of amused that obviously you'd been tracking your delivery and stuff like that, which I think is what we spoke about last episode. And then I saw that, like, is it like a 2-week turnaround now, pretty much? Like, when you order one, they seem to have caught up with the with the manufacturing now, so you can basically order one and just get one in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is basically why I got one, is because they've increased the shipments so dramatically that I went from, sometime at the end of the fourth quarter to, here it is at the end of, September. So I've been really impressed with this. I mean, it's big. It's definitely a lot larger than a Switch, but I didn't really notice it because it's not, it's heavy, but it's balanced really well. So it's not uncomfortable to play, which I like a lot. And compared to something like the Aya Neo, which I've talked about in the past, which is, a handheld Windows PC, it's a lot easier to use. Especially if what you're doing is you're sticking with the Steam. The way this works is it's basically a Linux computer running SteamOS, and SteamOS is built for playing games. So if you're sticking with games that are available on Steam, it's super easy and simple. It's you can drop down into the Linux desktop and install other things that are Linux compatible. You could other video game stores, games that are just made for Linux, emulators, all that kind of stuff. But so far, I've been perfectly happy just playing things on Steam because Steam has basically everything that you can imagine. Yes, I've thought about adding. I think you can add the Xbox store on here, like Game Pass.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that, and I think I saw an article going around that you can do the PlayStation Remote Play.
Yes,
on there as well.
Yes.
There seems to be some.
That's an open source project, though. I think. I don't think that's a Sony thing.
No, I don't think it is. I kind of saw the 2-week turnaround thing, and I was a bit skeptical when this sort of came out. I was like, oh, okay, it's just another handheld thing, like whatever. But the more I look at it and the more I see people using it, I'm like, yeah, this seems like a really good solution to PC gaming. Because I don't want a big PC. I don't want some big PC tower. I don't particularly want to get a gaming laptop. And I believe you can like HDMI out with the Steam Deck, right?
Yeah, you can. They're still working on a docking solution, but you can do it. I haven't really done it much. I tested it, but I haven't really done it much myself.
Yeah, because what I'm imagining is like this is actually a really good solution for like, okay, so it's handheld, great. I could take it various places, but I could also just have this under my monitor at my desk.
Yep.
And just play games that way as well.
Yep, no, absolutely.
So it's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on, and maybe we'll pick up at some point. Even though I've never owned a gaming PC, I have a fairly hefty Steam library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just because, I think I picked up like every Grand Theft Auto game for like £2.
Oh wow!
Like a few years ago.
They do have good sales from time to time.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've noticed it more with indie games as well, where like on Steam or even on like Epic and stuff like that, those games are so much cheaper than they are on like the PS5 or the Xbox.
Oh, they
store.
really are. They really are. Yeah.
And you're not necessarily, the power isn't really that important for those games because they're not all of them, like there are, but a lot of them are like the sort of they're emulating like a sort of 2D 16-bit type game.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards one. Or if somebody wants to send me one, I won't say. If anyone's got a spare one, knock it about.
Right. Well, and they've really worked some magic with the upscaling of the video, the graphics here on this handheld device because games really look good on it. It's not, the screen itself is not up to like the OLED Switch. It's not of that caliber. But it's able to upres the graphics through these layers of software that are built into the Steam Deck in a way that doesn't compromise like frame rates and things like that. So you can get a pretty good experience with what is otherwise a very, it's a fairly anemic CPU, GPU combo compared to like an actual desktop machine. So what I had on here, like I shared my Steam library with my kids, and so there were already some games in there. I had things like Cuphead and Cyberpunk was actually in here. It was the most recent game I had, and so I played a little bit of that originally, and it actually looks pretty good. I'm not playing that now because that's just like a big sprawling game, and I don't really have time for it. Instead, I've been playing Cult of the Lamb, which is quite good. That's a great game. Vampire Survivors. And then Rollerdrome. Now, Rollerdrome is a new one by Roll7.
Yeah, we spoke about this last week.
That's what it was.
Playing this on the Steam Deck, or were we? I can't even remember now.
Maybe we were talking about the Steam Deck.
We must. It must have been when we mentioned it, but yeah, we did speak about Rollerdrome.
Yeah,
Rollerdrome, which is.
My problem is I forget where I mention things.
Oh yeah, me too. It's been 2 weeks. We can't be blamed for we can't be expected to remember everything.
Yeah, I did mention this too. Well, see, I talked about it on Mac Stories Unwind too, which is why I might have forgotten about talking about it here. But it's an amazing game. You're on roller skates and you're fighting and shooting and because it's made by Roll7, which does the OlliOlli games, it has that kind of really intricate control scheme for doing all kinds of flips and grabs and other things like you would in a skateboard game. And it's got a really neat stylized graphics to it that's very cartoon anime a little bit. A lot of fun. And Vampire Survivors is just a really weird indie game where you don't even shoot. It just shoots for you, and you just run around killing vampires and picking up gems. And it's weirdly addictive, but it's like very roguelike in the sense that eventually you just die and start over.
Sure. Well, do you know what? Even as we're talking, I'm like, no, I do think I want one, but not right now.
Yeah. No, and it's like you're right though. I mean, you can save some money on games if you're buying them from Steam. So that's kind of nice because it gets expensive playing a lot of these console games that are all like $70 now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And something like Rollerdrome is way cheaper on Steam than it is on the PS5 store.
Yeah, it's like $20 or $25 on Steam, I think.
Mm-hmm. And there's been a bunch of those as well, like these sort of indie studios and stuff where in some cases the games are like half the price on Steam.
Right.
And when it's going to be a game that Untitled Goose Game is a good example of that. Like that it's going to be a sort that's like maybe 4, maybe 5 hours if you sort of do everything in the game. It's like I'd rather it was cheaper and I just sort of could just play it wherever, on a Steam Deck or whatever, rather than having to pay the PS5 prices. But does that justify spending £300 on a Steam Deck? Probably not. But
it is.
I'm a little bit more convinced than I was before.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I have been, as a result, I haven't been playing my PS5 as much. Although I did last weekend. We had a hurricane come here, Rob. Hurricane Ian. We got the remnants of it in North Carolina. It roared through Florida, of course, and then it re-entered the Atlantic Ocean and came ashore in South Carolina. And so starting last Friday all the way through Saturday to Sunday, we had really high winds and a ton of rain, but nothing too bad. I mean, it's not like, I think I saw one tree down in the entire area, but we were kind of staying in. You were kind of told to stay in for the weekend because it could be flooding and all kinds of things. So I was playing some Miles Morales, some Spider-Man Miles Morales. Yeah, which I hadn't played in a long time. And I actually had played it before I had a PS5. And it really looks so much nicer on the PS5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks incredible on the PS5. It's such a nice looking game.
Yeah, I played on the PS4 and it was, it was fun and it was nice and it looked good. But I was really impressed with the how it looks on the PS5.
Oh yeah, and the difference between the day it launched and what it has now it is huge as well. They released I think 4 or 5 updates within like the first month or two. That added better frame rates and reflections and a whole bunch of different like performance options and stuff like that.
Oh, I see. I really noticed the reflections a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really go heavy on the reflections. Like, I feel like sometimes it's maybe a bit over the top, but you know what? It looks really nice, so who cares?
Yeah, no, I mean, it is one of those things that it immediately caught my eye, and I was like, I don't remember this game being like this. And now that you say that they added them in, yeah, I think it looks great. I mean, it is a little, it's a very shiny game now, but it works for the game, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. One last thing on games. Given that you've got the Steam Deck, have you played Sackboy?
I have
on the
not. I have
PS5 yet?
not, and I saw that it's coming to the PC. I think, right?
Yes, it is. I mean, either way, you should play this game, whether it's PS5 or on the PC. It's assuming the PC release is good, which I imagine it will be. But I played this, I think, probably when it came out, and this is so much fun. Like, it's such a good platformer.
Oh, good to know. I'll definitely pick that up. I mean, it sounds like the kind of game that might be good on a handheld too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, because it's not, it's not a big sprawling game. It's it's locked sort of levels.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of fairly linear, and there's a bunch of really good levels where the music is a big part of the level, which are just so much fun to play. So yeah, if when that comes out on PC, which I think is only in a few weeks,
yeah,
maybe look at picking that up for the Steam Deck.
I'm kind of on video game lockdown because I'm in the middle of trying to get my macOS review done, and so most of my spare time is spent doing that. Unfortunately, right now, but soon, and they've got God of War Ragnarok is coming very soon. And the new Pokemon game is coming in like a month, a little over a month.
It's pretty busy.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out in November, so it should be. Yeah, I'll definitely be taking some time off and playing these games.
Yeah, we'll report back on what we have actually end up playing in a few months when we've actually had some time to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll speak to you in a few weeks, and maybe I might have played some games by then, but maybe not.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Rob. I'll talk to you later.
Speak to you later. Bye.